My God, Brenay's second contempt hearing was intense. I'm going to be very upfront with you. This was a very long hearing, and I did not sleep at all last night. And so I am going to give you this recap so you understand the gist. But please go check out the rest of BOTG's live recaps, their videos. I was present with BG, Tatted, Caramel, and Ninja. So please stay tuned because they should be having content for you very soon. Glomo and Barbie, we really missed you. Everything happened very quickly. This was a very intense, emotionally charged, and fast-paced hearing. Even though it went on for 4 hours, there was a lot of testimony to cover. There was a lot of legal arguments, and so having to pay attention, I did my best to take extensive notes, but after a while, my writing became very frenzied. And so first off, I need sleep. I need to process. This noggin has been working all morning. Second, I need to organize my notes. They're kind of all over the place, especially in the second half of the hearing. And so just give me a day or so, just so I can organize my thoughts. I want to make sure that I'm giving you a very thoughtful recap. Yes, this will be a mini-series because I want to break down each individual's testimony in its own video so we can focus on that. But like I said, today is all about the recap. My usual disclaimer, I am a certified law nerd, bona fide non-attorney. This is not legal advice. This is just my interpretation of what I heard in the hearing today. Let's begin. Has anyone else noticed that their handwriting has gotten worse over the years? Mine certainly has. I had really good penmanship when I was a kid, but now that I don't write too much, it's bordering on chicken scratch. So the first thing I did when I got home was start to transcribe my notes from my notebook into my Apple Notepad. It just makes it so much easier to catalog and search and cross-reference. I highly recommend if you are you are the type that likes to handwrite notes, that you put them in your notepad. It's much easier. I like to take notes in typical outline fashion with bullets. So Judge Hall was presiding. He is the same judge who booted us from the courtroom a few weeks ago. He was in a much better mood today. Attorney Jones, Attorney Robin, Attorney Hamilton, Tim, Attorney Sidner, which is Akira's mother, Brenay, and Akira. Let's start off with the procedural posture. The hearing did not reach a resolution today. It has been continued to a date that is to be determined due to the court's current scheduling conflicts. And this hearing functioned like a bench trial, meaning there was no jury. The judge alone is responsible for listening to the testimony, weighing credibility, considering the evidence, and ultimately deciding whether contempt occurred and whether the protective order should be renewed. There were 4 witnesses who testified today: Tim, who was cross-examined as a continuation from the prior hearing, Akira's mother, Brenay, and finally Akira. There is 1 additional witness who is expected to testify at the next hearing. As I said, this contempt hearing was a continuation from several weeks ago when the first witness called was Brenay's sister, Kayla. The hearing was scheduled to begin at 9 a.m., but there was an initial delay because Brenay was not present on time due to a misunderstanding about the start time. Now, this is DV court. While the courtroom was not packed, there were multiple other parties present waiting for their cases to be called. The environment was already tense, and there were moments of distraction due to these random parties, but overall, the vibe of this hearing was extremely contentious. Meaning, this was not light or casual. Both attorneys were very aggressive in advocating for their positions, and there were frequent objections throughout the hearing. There were 2 key issues before the court today. First, whether Brenay should be held in contempt for alleged violations of Akira's existing protective order, and second, whether that protective order should be renewed. These issues were brought before the court through motions to show cause. A motion to show cause requires the accused party, in this case Brenay, to come into court and explain why she should not be held in contempt for violating a court order. In other words, the burden shifts to that party to justify their conduct. A major point of contention today was the scope of the motions to show cause. Attorney Robin attempted to establish a broader pattern of alleged violations. Attorney Hamilton pushed back hard, arguing that the court should limit its consideration to 2 specific incidents: the graduation ceremony involving Akira's son and a video recorded at a restaurant that included Akira's son in his school uniform, which allegedly led to a significant security issue. Ultimately, the judge agreed that expanding beyond those 2 incidents would require restarting Tim's testimony from the beginning, and the court did not have the bandwidth for that today, so the parties proceeded only on those 2 motions. So Tim testified first. Some of his responses were expected. Others were striking in tone. Like I said, I will be breaking them down in a separate video. He appeared defensive most times, which is not unusual during cross-examination, if we're being fair, but there were moments that came across as borderline disrespectful. My biggest takeaway from Tim's testimony is that he did not appear concerned about how posting the children online could potentially expose them. That takeaway is based on his own words during testimony. Like I said, I'll break that down in a separate video. Next was Akira's mother. She was soft-spoken, clearly knowledgeable, and she is an attorney herself. Her testimony was more emotional. She described how uncomfortable the graduation ceremony was, given the existing no-contact order and how that moment impacted the family. One of the strongest themes from her testimony was that she has repeatedly had to step out of what should be joyful, once-in-a-lifetime moments as a grandmother in order to protect her daughter and grandkids and help navigate ongoing legal issues. She also testified about a moment at the graduation ceremony that stood out. When she attempted to take photos or suggested taking a picture of Akira with their son, Tim allegedly responded with something along the lines of, "This is bullshit." She testified that she asked him whether he would want to at least have those memories, and according to her testimony, Brenay's response was to put it in a frame. Her testimony emphasized what she described as a repeated pattern of attempts to circumvent protective orders and custody agreements and an obsession with her daughter. Then Brenay took the stand, and during direct examination by her attorney, she was composed and polished. The tone was very similar to what many of you may remember from her Dr. Phil appearance, framing everything as a misunderstanding, innocent, and or misconstrued. She did throw in there a couple of times that there was a bunch of lies perpetuated by Akira as well as the internet. During cross-examination by attorney Robin, however, her tone shifted noticeably. She became a very familiar version of Brenay that you see online, sarcastic, evasive, arrogant, and repeatedly attempted to narrate rather than directly answer the questions being asked. For me, two moments stood out among many. We will get into her testimony later. First, when asked whether she would comply with a new no-contact order if it prohibited speaking about the children online, she invoked freedom of speech, stating that no one could stop her from talking about her life and the people she loves. For context, the current protective order prohibits posting the children, posting images of them, or including their voices in the background of her content. According to Attorney Hamilton, it does not explicitly prohibit speaking about them. Second, there was testimony relating again to the graduation ceremony, which I'll unpack more fully in a separate breakdown. Akira was the final witness, and the court ultimately ran out of time. Her testimony was emotional in nature. Akira did break down for a bit on the stand. It included several bombshell statements. I will go over those, but if you want a quick, not a quick, but if you want an immediate recap, go check out the rest of BOTG's live recaps. They'll give you the tea. One of the most significant allegations was that Tim was allegedly armed at the graduation ceremony in question and has also shown up armed during child exchanges. Akira testified that this is a major concern for her regarding custody and safety. There was minor overlap between the custody case and this hearing. Obviously, Attorney Hamilton had a lot of objections when it came to that because Brenay is the defendant. However, Akira and Attorney Robin did emphasize that the custody agreement should be relevant to this conversation because it includes what third parties can and cannot do. Like I said, there were additional revelations during her testimony that I will be covering in an individual video. Don't forget to check out the rest of BOTG's live recaps and their content. They're going to be posting stuff over the next few days. Like I said, I'm going to get some sleep, and then I will be back with my mini-series. But while I'm asleep, I want to hear from you. What do you want to hear? Chronological witnesses, or is there a specific witness you want me to start with first? Let me know in the comments. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them once I wake up. I'll catch you in the next one.